If you've been trying sleep restriction for insomnia only to end up way more stressed out about your sleep than you were before, or maybe you're on the fence about trying sleep restriction for yourself, this video is going to help you get on the right track. Today, I'm sharing why the strict protocol of sleep restriction might not be the best approach for getting rid of your insomnia, and what you can do to instead naturally retrain your mind and body for deep restorative sleep, no matter how long you've been struggling. Hello, I'm Meredith Loudon. I had insomnia for 16 years and now I'm a sleep coach. And I can't tell you how many people come to me who either tried sleep restriction therapy as part of CBTI, cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, and found it too stressful or it didn't work for them. And now, luckily, I'm also getting more and more people reaching out to me before they try sleep restriction, and they get to save themselves all of the stress that comes along with that. Sleep restriction therapy is based on the idea that if you've been awake in bed long enough, your brain starts to associate your bed with wakefulness. And so the solution that this neurologist came up with is to limit the time that you spend in bed so that you build up what's called your sleep drive. Sleep drive is just the technical term for the natural pressure that your body builds up throughout the day that makes you feel increasingly sleepy so that you're driven to go to sleep, kind of like hunger, but for sleep. In theory, that makes sense. And if we were robots without emotions, then I think it would probably work for most people. But if what I'm about to describe sounds stressful to you, then you're gonna wanna watch this entire video. In practice, sleep restriction often means deliberate sleep deprivation, and here's how it works. First, you decide on a fixed sleep window, which is to restrict the time that you spend in bed each night to equal your average sleep time. So if you're struggling with insomnia and you're averaging, let's say, 5 hours of sleep per night, then you're gonna have to restrict your total time in bed to only 5 hours. The idea is that by limiting your amount of time in bed, the body will become more efficient at using that time spent asleep, which I think is actually seriously flawed logic, which I will explain in a minute. With sleep restriction, you usually will also delay your bedtime later until you're truly sleepy. So you're forcing yourself into a later bedtime. So if you're the type of person who's constantly counting how many hours are left until your alarm goes off in the morning, this might be kind of a tricky mental game to wrap your mind around while you're going through this process. So you're gonna get into bed later so that hopefully you're more tired, and also you're gonna make sure that you're only in bed for about 5 to 6 hours total. And then on top of that, you're supposed to get out of bed if you don't fall asleep within 20 minutes. You're supposed to get out of bed and go to a couch or a chair outside of your bedroom and do a quiet, non-stimulating activity like reading, for example. Then you wait until you're tired again. Once you're tired, you go back to bed, and then you see if you fall asleep within 20 minutes, and if you don't, you're supposed to get out of bed again and repeat that whole process. So if you don't fall asleep within about 20 minutes, you're basically back and forth in and out of bed, possibly all night long, which is what indeed happens to a lot of people, at least in the beginning. You're depriving yourself of sleep on purpose to try and force your body to sleep at some point. And the idea is that over time, this should help your body learn to fall asleep faster and maintain deeper sleep. However, if the thought of any of that stressed you out, that's exactly why I think this approach is extremely flawed. But the good news is there is a much better, in my opinion, and much more pain-free way to go about this instead, which I'm gonna walk you through. So first, here is why sleep restriction can backfire big time. It is way too focused on your bed and on sleep. The way that I see this, and this is what I've experienced time and time again working with my coaching clients and the over 600 members inside my Sleep Success online program, is that the real issue isn't your bed at all. Instead, it's that your mind and body have learned to see nighttime as a period of alertness rather than rest. So by over-focusing on sleep restriction, you're inadvertently reinforcing the idea that sleep is a battle. And that added pressure activates your stress response in your body, making it even harder to fall asleep. So instead of trying to train your body like an animal to instantly, knock out as soon as your head hits the pillow, which sounds great, of course, but in practice, we have to actually address the root cause of the issue, which has very little, if not nothing, to do with your bed for most people. Another thing I really don't agree with about sleep restriction is the focus on getting out of bed if you haven't fallen asleep within 20 minutes. Because here's what usually happens to people. They're tired. They want to fall asleep. They go to bed, but now they're under all this pressure because there's like this ticking time bomb of 20 minutes lingering over them and stressing them out, which is activating the fight or flight response in your body. It's as if someone was saying to you, if you don't fall asleep within 20 minutes, I'm going to shoot you in the foot. I mean, obviously not really. It's if you don't fall asleep in 20 minutes, you have to get out of bed and go to the couch, but it kind of feels that way. And who could possibly fall asleep under those circumstances? And that's what's going on from the perspective of your survival brain. Like, I would be getting shot in the foot in this scenario, hands down. It's just too much pressure. Aside from that, the focus on getting out of bed also makes your brain more aware of how much time has passed, which does not help you get more sleep. What I do with my clients instead is we actually pretend that time doesn't exist at night. And that's the beauty of nighttime, isn't it? Everyone else is asleep. There's nothing you have to get done. You get to just exist without any obligations. And I think that is a really beautiful thing. So with sleep restriction, it can be stressful for a lot of people, and it can even increase anxiety. And I'd say that this tends to not be a good fit for anyone who's already dealing with significant stress or anxiety in their life or about their sleep, and definitely not if you're dealing with a racing mind when you're trying to fall asleep. For instance, I once worked with a client whose CBTI therapist told her to wait until 11 p.m. or even midnight to get into bed, even though she had to wake up for work at 5 in the morning. The result was more anxiety, more stress, and even less sleep, which is hard to do when you have a busy life that you have to be functional for. So my approach instead is focused on creating a peaceful, natural transition to sleep instead of sending you down into a spiral of even more frustration and worry. So here's how I help my clients get their sleep back completely naturally without sleep restriction. There are 3 things we focus on. The first thing is training your brainwaves to slow down. During the day, we're in mostly what's called a beta brainwave, which is when you are awake and alert. But to fall asleep, your brain needs to slow down into the alpha brainwave, which is the state that your brain is in when you're falling asleep. And we can actually train your brain to quickly shift into the alpha state very quickly. And this is something you can practice in the morning and in the afternoon to start shifting your mind from an active state to a relaxed state much more easily. And so then when you get into bed at night, your brain knows how to detach from the external world and detach from all of life stressors and all of the thoughts, and your brain effortlessly slows down. And that's when you start drifting into sleep very quickly without even thinking about it. It used to take me hours to fall asleep, and now most nights I fall asleep within 5 to 10 minutes, which is mind-blowing given that I had chronic insomnia for 16 years. So this is literally the cheat code to your sleep. The second thing is showing the survival part of your mind that nighttime is safe for you to rest and relax. This is the root cause of what is going on for so many people with insomnia. If you're the type of person who's always trying to get one more thing done during the day, you're super busy, you have a lot on your to-do list, maybe you're even a little bit of a perfectionist, you like things done a certain way, you have high standards, or if you're the type of person who notices that you're easily stressed or triggered by little things that shouldn't be such of a big deal, this indicates that your nervous system is in a constant state of fight or flight mode, which has become way too common in our society. Basically, what's happening is your nervous system and the survival part of your brain has learned that resting is not safe because you're always doing things, you're always in motion, or your brain is perceiving threats and triggering the feelings of stress or anxiety when really all that's happening is maybe you're a little bit late for an appointment, or you see a new work email come in and instantly you're all hyped up and stressed out about it. These are not life or death scenarios, but your survival brain is interpreting too many things as if you were about to die. This is literally happening to so many people, and this is also why I couldn't sleep for over a decade, because my nervous system got trained to be constantly on high alert. And this is a really subtle, overlooked reason for why your brain's survival instinct is staying turned on at night, which is what's keeping you awake even if you're exhausted by the end of the day. The key is to start retraining your brain that it's okay to slow down and just exist in the present moment, which is teaching your nervous system that it's okay to rest, and it's also teaching the survival part of your brain that nighttime is safe to rest and sleep. All of this is what I dive into in the most detail inside my free masterclass for chronic insomnia and sleep anxiety, which I invite you to watch ASAP. You can find it on my website and also in the description below. This masterclass is a whole deep dive on how to actually retrain your brain to sleep naturally and get out of living in fight or flight mode, and it's helped thousands of people with their sleep. I'd love to know in the comments, what do you think about sleep restriction? Have you tried it? If so, what was your experience? If you were on the fence about it, do you want to try it now? Commenting is also going to help more people find this video who really need this information. Thank you so much for watching. The good news is natural sleep is totally achievable for you, no matter how long you've been having trouble sleeping. I've healed my insomnia. You can do it too. You still have the natural ability to sleep, and you're so much more powerful than you think.